Welcome. I've got Heather Campbell coming on with me here in just a second. We're going to talk about building family relationships around the family meal. And we're especially going to address some of the unique concerns that we have when we have a spouse who's in the military and maybe they're not there, or they work long hours, or they're doing shift work. So let me see if I can get her on. Trying to find her here. Okay, nope. She is not on. So hopefully she'll hop on soon. Let's see. Yep. I'm trying to find her. Okay, we might have to stop this and give her a call. Let's see, I'll just wait a minute. This is kind of awkward because it's just me talking to me. Hi, Noelle. Okay, here we go. She's coming now. Great. You are here. Hopefully you can pop on. I gave you access, but let's see. Sometimes Instagram Live doesn't like to cooperate. Hey!
Hi!
I kept trying repeatedly and it wasn't letting me let you on. Sometimes that happens.
Well, we did it. We're here, all the tech things, right? Like, yes. I'm not a tech expert. You're not a tech expert. And we're here anyway. So go us. Look at us.
Well, with Instagram Live, some days it works perfectly according to the instructions and other days it doesn't. So I was just sitting here talking to myself for a bit, which is super awkward, but let me tell everybody a little bit about how I know you and a little bit about you. So first of all, Heather and I met at a conference several years ago. Was that in 21?
I think so, yeah, 21 or 22. Yeah, it's been a while.
Yes. So Heather is also an Air Force spouse like me. She has 3 kids, and she is also a registered dietitian. And Heather is expert in food insecurity, especially when it relates to the military. But I did not invite her to talk on that today. In fact, maybe I can have her back and she can talk about that. But I invited her today to talk to us a little bit about her passion for encouraging people to build relationships around the family meal. But Heather and I had a little chat before the chat.
We did.
And she was telling me about just one of her famous quotes. And I thought that was really interesting and applicable. So it doesn't really, well, it relates a little bit to the family meal. But first of all, I wanted to ask you about that. So Heather, you told me that one of the things you like to tell people is that they are their family's expert and they need to kind of trust their intuitions. So tell me a little bit more about what you mean by that and specifically how that relates to the military family.
Well, thank you so much for having me on again, Beth. It's always, every time that we've had an opportunity to speak virtually or grab coffee, you know, when our paths cross, it's always just been a joy and such uplifting conversation. So I'm glad to be part of it. When we talk about being the expert in your family, that comes from my days in graduate school as a new dietitian and learning with our provider team. I was working with very specific populations that needed a lot of medical support, respiratory, nutrition, all of these things, right? And so we would tell the families frequently, you know, hey, Beth, you're the expert on your kids. You know what their normal breathing, their normal eating, like, you know, all of these intricacies about your kid that we don't have access to, right? So we would tell our patients, parents, trust your gut. If something's going on, like, trust your gut, you're the expert. And the way that that relates to our non-medically complex kids is knowing that as the parent, especially, you know, as a person of faith, my job is to know my children better. The only person who should know my kids better than me is God, right? Like, I should know their needs, their wants, their desires, their fears better than anybody. So when we're looking for support or we're looking for advice on our budgets, on going back to work, if we're looking for family meals, you have to sort of take all of those different things in and then use the pieces that work for your family, because only you understand your specific dynamic. For example, a lot of military families can have a second income and can work very easily. We are heading into our third move in 3 years. We anticipate moving next summer. That'll be 4 moves in 4 years. That's a lot. So my
Yes.
role within my family and how I protect that space around my family is different than maybe if we had been settled for a while, right?
Right.
And that comes from me being the expert in each of my children, the expert in how we care for our marriage intentionally and how we parent our children intentionally. And when it comes to making any sort of decision about your family, you have the freedom and the confidence to realize that, hey, Beth, nobody knows your crew, like you do.
Yeah, I
Have
love
some confidence
that.
in recognizing that.
Yeah, and I love that. And I think we need that confidence to say we know them better. Like we don't have to always go to all these other outside sources. And just because what's working for Heather Campbell works for Heather Campbell, that doesn't mean it has to work for me,
Right.
right? Our situations are different and unique. And one of the, I like to say, opportunities we get as a military family is that we have to constantly be recreating the wheel and reassessing because our life is in constant flux. And if it makes you feel better, Heather, we did that many moves in that amount of time as well. So
You made it. You made it to the other side.
I
Everybody's
made
productive
it.
and safe.
God had me on the move very frequently plan, and I think it was to teach me to rely on him because that's the only thing, that was remaining consistent. Okay, so I want to move on to something I know you're really passionate about, which is building family relationships around the family meal. So my first question for you is that practical anymore? And especially, how does this work in a home where you have a husband who's serving in the military, has to work long hours, or even like is in command, which means they're really not home a lot.
Yeah.
How do you make that work?
Well, I think it goes back to knowing your family the best, right? And being the expert in your family. So, you might have a spouse who's working a swing shift or has a high TDY tempo or kids with sports or whatever. And so recognizing that when we're talking about family meals or you think about family dinners, one, we have to get rid of that like beautiful Norman Rockwell painting of like the perfect meal and the kids well behaved and everything looks clean and tidy. Also, if
Yeah,
your
that
home is
doesn't
like
happen.
that for dinner, like please invite me because I want to experience it. And, like that sounds so lovely. But knowing that real life is a lot messier and a lot more fluid than that. So maybe for your family, you're in a season where Sunday brunch, maybe our church in Alaska didn't start until 11. So that particular season, we had a later start on Sunday. So we really enjoyed a slow pace on Sunday mornings. Just recognizing those pockets of that regular rhythm of life of we're regularly eating, whether we're eating drive-through, we're eating at the ballpark, we're eating at home. This is part of our regular tempo and our rhythm of life. So how can we use those opportunities intentionally in whatever way we can? How can we make the most of those 10 or 15 minutes that we're all pausing at the same time at the same place? And so family meals are a really great way to sort of multitask, if you will. Like, hey, I've got to gather all of these busy kids. I got to feed them anyway. This is going to be when we're going to intentionally engage in not having technology at the table and just spending those 5, 10, 15 minutes investing in one another and the people that you're sharing your life with.
Yeah. And I actually did a little bit of research preparing for what I was going to post on Instagram. And I was like, man, I wish I had these ideas when my kids were around. There's a lot of really easy things that you can do. Just simple questions you can have or be silly.
Yeah.
Occasionally. Obviously, we're not going to do that all the
Right.
time. And one of the things that we found that worked for us, um, especially when my husband was in command, is that we couldn't count on him to be home for dinner.
Mm-hmm.
So we started doing family breakfast, and it
Yes.
was early, so that we could have that intentional time together as a family. And, obviously we didn't do that all the 18 years that our kids were in our home, but for seasons, it was just what worked. And it also allowed me to have a lot better attitude about him having to work late because we had that relational building time as a family already.
Right.
Okay, so what ideas do you have? Something I feel like is really challenging is when the kids get in all the sports,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
and you're running around and you're in the car. And okay, how do we invest in relationships when we can't even sit around the table?
Well, first off, let me say that that's literally the season that we're in. I have 3 school-age kids in all the things and all the places, right?
Right.
And trying to make sure that they're getting experiences. And as a military family, we're not always present, we haven't moved on time for football tryouts, or we haven't moved on time to do the band audition. So there's a lot of missed opportunities for military kids. And so we're intentional about finding things that the kids can do, that they want to do. And I don't want to limit that because it might impact dinner time, right? So I think military families are really unique in that way of we don't have the same privilege that other families do.
Well, and our kids need time with other kids just to make friends.
Yes, and I want them to be led by other adults as well. I want them to receive mentorship from other adults that we trust, and to, get that coaching and get that different perspective, whether it's lessons or coaching or whatever. So there's a lot of benefits to that. But how do you make it work with family meals? So when you have a busy family, you first have to identify what your limiting factor is. We had a season where finance was our limiting factor. I had ample time. I had little tiny humans at home. I had more time than I did dollars. Now my time is more expensive than my dollars. We have a little bit more budget flexibility. I can buy the pre-cut apple slices. I can buy the pre-bagged salad. I can get the one pan, skillet frozen meal and put it with a bagged salad and save some time so that I can intentionally spend time with my family. And so I think knowing sort of where those pain points are and what that barrier is that's keeping you from that. And maybe it's not knowing what to put on the plate, right? You can go to the USDA website, look at the My Plate visual, and it's just, a portioned off plate that says half of it fruits and veggies, the other half a protein source and a grain, and that's it. And so you can keep it really simple and sort of give yourself permission to do it imperfectly and do it in a way that works for your family so that you can keep your brain space focused on that relationship building. So whether that's something quick on the way out the door to the ball field, or doing a breakfast, or having a big homemade dinner on Saturday evenings and blocking that time, right? Finding what works for your family and then finding shortcuts to make it feel like it's easier and not overwhelming. That's the way you're going to see the most success.
Yeah, I love that idea. And also, I remember when my kids were elementary, some middle, they didn't want their food mixed together anyways. Like if I made a casserole, they were like, ew, what is this? So yeah, you can do carrot sticks and apples and meat and bread separated because they probably gonna like it better anyways.
And they don't care. Kids don't care about it the same way that we do. They just don't have the same worry about what their meal looks like or what's on the plate.
Presentation is not important to them, nor is a famous family recipe that's going to take you a long time.
Right.
There was a thought I had and now it's gone. It's gone. Oh well. What other what tips do you have on how to? Okay, I know what I was going to say. I also think I want to encourage people to start small. Okay, right now, if you're not eating at all together and everybody has their device, start small. Why don't you try to have one meal a week where you're going to try to intentionally spend time together, right? And then once you get into that routine, maybe you could add another one. But let's start small. I think we really make a mistake, like when we hear a great idea, and I don't know, for me, I'll say, okay, I'm never going to do this again, and I'm going to do this now. I set myself up for failure when I make my expectations just completely unrealistic. And so I would say start small, maybe even try to look at the My Plate website and, one meal a week where we could, try to abide by that. And there's lots of great resources out there, how we can realize that our financial resources are limited and we can still offer a good family meal.
Absolutely. And, it can even start smaller with snacks. My kids after school, it's really like a second lunch, early dinner situation. That after school snack, it's not like a package of Teddy Grahams is holding them over. So even those things that might be out of your normal, okay, we know evenings is golf and gymnastics and piano. Those are crazy. That's going to be hard to make work. But I know from, 2:30 until 3, I've sort of got them captive. They want to tell me about their day. They want to tell me about school. Let's create an environment where they feel welcomed, they feel fed, and create this time that we can connect. Now, in our household, Dad's not home when the kids are getting home from school, but you can still start setting that regular expectation with your family that, hey, this is going to be a time that we're coming together, that we're connecting, and that we're investing in learning about each other's days. And that can be really important too. So that's a great way to start small is, hey, let's have our
Yeah,
after school snack
love that.
be just us. Let's sit down. Okay, I'm going to get out some, whatever favorite snack, and making it feel welcoming. This is not something that you start doing with, the vegetable that your kids don't love. They're not going
Right.
to feel welcome to the table. Like, as you start having these, don't introduce multiple conflicts at the same time. So,
Hmm. Yeah,
choose, okay, we're going to take away tech. We're going to make sure it's the favorite family recipe that everybody loves, right? We're not
right.
going to
Yeah,
bring
pick
everyone tech
something.
free
Yeah.
and have them hate the food.
Yeah, I might even do something I know there's their absolute favorite the first time we were going to do this, right? Yeah, because if we're setting them up for this really gross meal, we're already setting ourselves up for
Yeah,
failure.
absolutely.
Yeah. Well, this was great information, Heather. Really appreciate it. And I think I would love to have you on again to talk about food insecurity because I know that's one of your specialties.
It
But we
is,
just,
yeah. I love helping different families find ways to get back to the table so that they can be building relationship with one another. And we know that we have a lot of families, especially in my community in the military, that are having trouble even getting to the table. So there's lots of things I've learned, lots of tips I would love to give for that. But, for the general population, finding that way to connect and build relationship with your significant other, with your partner, with your children. If you have multiple generations in your household, finding that way to build strong relationships at home when our life feels like it's in flux so much. It's so, so important. It can go so far for the well-being of your family.
yes. All right. I want to encourage you guys to follow Heather. She goes by Glory Nutrition. Am I saying that right?
You are, yeah,
Okay.
Glory Nutrition.
Great. And I really appreciate you giving the time just to invest in the military families I'm trying to encourage along the way because I know it's hard.
It
So I
is.
really appreciate you, Heather, and I will share this and I'll tag you so you'll be able to share on your social as well. Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks so much. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.